Hey guys, it's Melissa, and tonight we are going to break down a very important topic for your business, and that is how to choose the most profitable platform. So whether you sell digital or physical products, we're going to break down how to make sure that you're using the most profitable platform that makes sense for you and what you're selling. Now, before we get started, I have quite a few things I want to go over first, and you're probably guessing that yes, this is kind of spurred from Etsy's latest changes, which if you haven't heard, they changed some of their fees. So instead of charging 3.5% as their commission or not transaction fee, but processing fee, they went from 3.5% to 5%. So if you haven't yet, this is going to be the perfect time for you to sit down, look at all the numbers of your business, what your profits are, what your expenses are, and make sure that you're using the best platform. And maybe there's more than one answer. Maybe there's multiple platforms that would work well for you, but we are going to break every single aspect of that down tonight. So again, I'm Melissa, and if you don't know, I started off selling pretty much just physical products. So things I made like scarves or hats, and now I primarily just sell digital product. So I do understand both sides of the spectrum. I know pricing is a huge thing, but we are going to be breaking down all of this, and it's going to apply for you no matter what. So at the end of this video, I will be posting a blog post, which will have a freebie in it, which I will explain later on. I'll walk you guys through exactly what it is, how it's going to help you. And I will say, spoiler alert, Austin is my husband, we went through all these numbers for like hours last weekend, like hours and hours and hours. And when I said that I wanted to give away this content and this basically amazing spreadsheet to you guys, my husband Austin looked at me and he was like, "You're going to give that away for free? You're not going to charge money?" And I was like, "No, people need to have this. I think it's really important. I want to help you guys." And I did all of this for myself, and I thought, well, hey, why not share it for you guys, and you can use it too and make sure your business is profitable and that your numbers are where you want them to be too. So at the end of this, I'll give the information on how you can find that spreadsheet for free, and I'll break it down all for you, and you can see everything, and I'll explain all of it as we go through this tonight. So if you're ready, I'm going to jump in with some of these disclaimers here. First things first, if you didn't know, I live in the United States, so all of the numbers and information I'm going to give you tonight is based on the US. Now, if you're in Canada or in Europe or somewhere else, you will be able to customize it for yourself. You're gonna have to do a little bit more work, and I'm sorry, but I just based everything on numbers in the US. I imagine it would be similar, but again, you can totally take that into your own hands and make sure that it's exactly applicable to you and to your business. So that's thing number one. Now, I have a whole list in front of me. I have a lot of notes. I always have notes for my Instagram lives, but tonight it's especially important because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So please forgive me if I'm checking my notes. I have my computer in front of me, which I will be showing you and flipping the camera so you can see everything once we get into that point. So here's the first thing I want to mention. Again, these are kind of disclaimers, but no matter where you are selling online, you are always at the mercy of someone else. So right now, I'm at the mercy of Instagram because I'm using Instagram Live. When I upload this video to YouTube later, I'm at the mercy of YouTube. So if I'm using Etsy, I'm at the mercy of Etsy and their rules, and I have to play by their rules. If I'm using Shopify, same thing. I gotta play by Shopify's rules. Squarespace, Ravelry, I have to play by their rules, and they could change those rules at any point in time. Now, we all strive to have control over our business, right? You want as much control as possible. You're never going to have 100% control, but I promise with some of these platforms, you can make sure that you have control in the places that you need it. And then in other areas, you'll say, you know what? I'm okay with Etsy controlling that. I'm okay with Etsy controlling sending automatic downloads of the PDFs when someone buys them. Like, I'm okay with them controlling that. And maybe other platforms do that too. But it's kind of like a give and take, right? So for these services, they're offering you something, but in return, like, you either have to pay them, abide by the rules, or whatever that looks like. And just so you know, I didn't say it yet, but all the numbers I'm going to be going over will be for Etsy, Etsy Pattern, Shopify, Squarespace, and then Ravelry. So I know Ravelry is really only applicable if you're selling patterns, but I wanted to include that because it's really important to me, and I know some of you guys out there also design. So again, we're gonna go over Etsy, Etsy Pattern, Shopify, Shopify Basic, Squarespace, and Ravelry. Got all that? It's a lot. Okay, so one thing that we need to know about all of these platforms is Etsy and Ravelry are more of like an online marketplace. So the customers are already there. The customers are there and they're searching for things that someone would sell on that platform. So for Etsy, they might be searching for things that are vintage or handmade, but Etsy is already bringing those people in. They are bringing those customers in. It's like they're a mall and you're setting up a shop in the mall. Like, the mall has already brought in the people and they just need to walk by and walk into your store. Ravelry is kind of the same way. People go there for knit and crochet patterns. And again, like, they're bringing in a lot of those people for you. Now, Squarespace and Shopify, those are more like a standalone website where you have to drive the traffic to it. So just keep that in mind. As I said, there's a lot of different features and pros and cons of all of these platforms. I'm going to be focused on just the numbers tonight and just the profitability and your profit margins. But all of those factors and those features are priceless. So make sure you consider them. Even though they're not in the numbers, one might be a little bit cheaper, but at the end of the day, if you really want those features that this platform has to offer, it might be worth it for you to pay a little bit more to use that platform. So again, Etsy and Ravelry are kind of like a marketplace where the people are already there and you're just setting up your shop there and letting the customers come to you that are already there. Now, Shopify and Squarespace, again, those are more like a standalone site where you are in charge of driving all the traffic to that. Shopify and Squarespace are not going to help you. They don't have customers looking for handmade goods or digital patterns. So it's up to you to drive 100% of your traffic there. Whew. I feel like I'm talking really fast. So if you guys have questions, feel free to interrupt me, but I will also have some Q&A at the end. And you can reach me anytime. So let's keep going. Now, I want to reiterate one thing too, especially I found this very, very evident with the recent changes that Etsy has made. I saw a lot of people, like, I don't want to say overreacting, but making a bold statement, like a blanket statement that doesn't apply to everybody. So just because Etsy works super great for one person doesn't mean it works good for somebody else. Just because Shopify is a great option for one person doesn't mean it's a good option for you. So no matter what anyone else says, like, do what's right for you and make sure that you do your own research and make sure that you're getting what you want out of the platform that you choose. Like, a couple more things before we get into the info. And I need a drink of water because this is a lot of talking. Do you guys like this mug? I'm drinking water, but I really wanted this mug. So here we are. Okay. Now, one other thing I wanted to go over, this is pretty granular, but throughout this video here, I'm going to be talking about your average selling price. And what I mean by that, and sometimes I think people call it an ASP, so your average selling price. And what I mean by that is the average price of the items that you sell. So for me, I pretty much sell 100% patterns, which are all $5. So my average selling price is really easy. It's just $5. But if you sell items that range from $20 to $50, and it's pretty even across the board, your average selling price might be $35 or it might be $40. So whatever that average sale order number is, that's your average selling price. Now, another thing we're going to be going over is your sales volume, and everything I refer to in this video is going to be monthly. So think about it as far as one, what the average selling price is. So try and think about that now. You can always calculate a more accurate number later, but just go with your gut for right now. So maybe it's $30 $35, $40, maybe it's $5. And then try and think about, and again, definitely look up the exact numbers later, but think about how many sales on average you have a month. Do you have 10 sales a month? Do you have 10,000 sales a month? Again, we're going to break it down. So no matter where you're at in your business, you can figure out what works best for you, but you're going to want to know kind of your average selling price and about how many sales you get per month. That'll really help you pinpoint your profits. Okay. Now I am going to pull up a spreadsheet before I show you guys. I apologize again because I'm going to be looking down a lot just so I make sure I get all these numbers right. I'm going to briefly go over the pricing structure of these platforms. And if you want to take notes, this is an awesome time to jot these down. All the numbers, again, are based on the US, and they are based on the latest and greatest information that I had as of Saturday. So they're pretty fresh, good for the US, but they could change at any time. So if you're watching this like 5 years from now, you might want to double check these numbers. A fly just flew by me. I don't know if you guys heard that. Okay, so let's jump in. Again, feel free to write these down. Again, I did a lot of the gathering for you. So if you guys tune in after and you get on that blog post and you grab this freebie, you can just download this and it'll all be in here for you. Okay, thing number one, Etsy. So Etsy has a 20-cent listing fee. They have a 5% transaction fee, so that's what just changed from 3.5% to 5%. So 20-cent listing fee, 5% transaction fee, then you have a 25-cent processing fee and a 3% processing fee. So you have your listing fee and transaction fee, and then you have your processing fees over here. So it's kind of two separate chunks. And you'll notice the way that Etsy bills you, it's kind of, you have to look in a couple places to make sure you're getting all these numbers when you're looking at like your true profit for the month. Because sometimes it's easy to be like, yeah, well, this includes my listing fee and my transaction fee, but it may not, your processing fees will be on your bill. Anyway, I'm not gonna get too into the nitty gritty because I think it'll get too confusing. But just know that, and again, with those processing fees, a lot of these platforms have processing fees. So it's not unique to Etsy. Pretty much any platform, PayPal, anything will have processing fees. All right, that was Etsy. Let's jump to Etsy Pattern. If you guys have not heard, do you guys know what Etsy Pattern is? If you do, just hit the hearts. Otherwise, I'll just give you a brief explanation. So Etsy Pattern is kind of like a standalone website, but it's fed by Etsy. So everything will go through your shop manager in Etsy. Okay, I see some hearts. Awesome, awesome. So you guys know what Etsy Pattern is. Great. So it kind of creates a standalone website, but in the back end, you're still using Etsy to feed all the information on that site. So Etsy is still processing those orders for you, but if you saw an Etsy Pattern website, it just looks like a normal website. It doesn't look like you're on Etsy, which is really cool because if you want a standalone website, but you don't have the time or resources to make your own and build out your own shop on it, you can use Etsy Pattern, and it's like minimal effort and it looks like a legit website. So let's go through the Etsy Pattern costs real quick. So it's a $15 per month subscription fee, and currently you're still getting charged the same prices as regular Etsy, but this is really cool. And this, I don't know if it's been officially announced yet, but in the Etsy forums, there was conversations and the Etsy admins responded and said that when they make these changes to their fees, the Etsy Pattern users will not pay those transaction fees and the listing fees that you would pay on regular Etsy. So the only thing that you'll be paying for on Etsy Pattern is a $15 per month subscription fee, and you'll be paying for the same processing fees. So you'll be paying 25 cents and 3% processing fee. Make sense? I should also mention these processing fees apply to shipping costs. They apply to the entire order. So previously, I think the processing fees did apply to shipping, but the transaction fees and listing fees did not. So just keep that in mind. You really have to like dig in and dot your I's and cross your T's, as they say, to make sure that you're not missing anything, because some of this is a little tricky and it's a little bit sneaky sometimes to make sure you're getting all the details. So that's Etsy and Etsy Pattern. Now, Shopify has different levels. For this, I just outlined Shopify Basic and Shopify. So the basic version of Shopify is the lowest end, it's the cheapest option. It is $29 per month, and it is 30 cents for a processing fee plus 2.9%. So Etsy Pattern and Etsy, their processing fees are 25 cents versus Shopify's 30 cents, and then 3% versus 2.9%. So it's like so close, it's not even funny. Then regular Shopify, $79 per month, and then 30-cent processing fees, and then a 2.6% processing fee. So these numbers, I mean, we're talking about fractions of percentages here, right? Like, does that even matter? Yes, it does matter. And I'm going to show you exactly when and where these numbers matter and what those thresholds are for, like, if you make 10 sales a month versus if you make 10,000 sales a month. The last couple are super easy, and that is Ravelry. I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you sell patterns, actually, I'm sorry, I forgot Squarespace. Ravelry and then Squarespace. So if you sell patterns, Ravelry is the best profit margin you're going to find anywhere, okay? So Ravelry, basically you're paying for PayPal's processing fees. So for PayPal, you're going to pay a 30-cent processing fee and a 2.9% processing fee. That's the exact same as Shopify Basic, except you're not paying that $29 per month. So, like, that's amazing. And there's also a feature in PayPal. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen it before. I just learned about it like a week ago. And it's called PayPal micropayments. And this is specific to people who who sell products that are generally like $10 or less. So those fees, and again, I'm just using this with Ravelry, for example, but it really applies to PayPal in general. Those fees are 5 cents per transaction and 5% per transaction. So if your average selling price is less than $10, that is generally going to be the best deal you're going to find anywhere. And you know what that means? That means that at the end of the day, you get to keep the most money of what you're making instead of handing it over to a platform. All right, now the last one I'm going to mention is Squarespace. Squarespace is kind of similar to Shopify. Standalone website, you can create a blog, all kinds of things with it. So it's a really cool service. And again, all these fees, they really start to look the same after a while. So I'm going to rattle these off, and then I'll show you like how crazy the differences are with these platforms. So Squarespace is $18 a month subscription. There are different levels of Squarespace. I only did the cheapest, and I assumed that you are doing an annual payment, meaning that you're paying for Squarespace yearly. So in Squarespace, if you pay for 12 months in advance, you are going to get charged a way cheaper rate than if you pay month by month. So for the purpose of this, I assume that you would be paying upfront for a year. So that would be on average $18 a month. Then on top of that, you would have a 30% processing fee, a 2.9% processing fee, and a 3% transaction fee. So that's a lot of fees. All right, now I am going to take you guys down, and I'm going to flip my camera so you can see everything I just showed you, and I'm going to show you visuals and how we can see where the profits really make a huge difference with all these platforms. Okay, now if you don't know, I actually always tape my phone to the window for Instagram Lives. I don't have a fancy phone holder, so right now I am untaping my phone from the window, so I'm sorry for the noise. Okay, got you guys. Here we go. Are you ready to see all this? Let me make sure I have it up where I want it. Okay, cool. All right, this is my neighbor's house behind the tree, and this is the spreadsheet. So this is gonna be shaky, but hang on, let me get my tape off my phone because otherwise it's gonna crinkle the whole time. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. So this is the first page of this freebie. If you guys are interested, I highlighted in blue the sections that you're going to want to change based on your business. So for instance, I have everything filled in right now as if I sell patterns. So I have my average selling price at $5, and then I have my monthly sales volumes down here. Now what this is showing me is what my sales revenue, total cost, margin, and overall profit will be for each platform based on the number of sales and the average selling price. So let's say I make one sale on Etsy. I'm going to make $5, but then I'm going to pay 85 cents total on all those fees, which means I'm going to take home 83%, and I'll be left with $4.15. Okay, this is pretty nitty gritty. This is kind of boring. I'm sorry. For the sake of an example, let's say I make 100 sales, and I'm going to change these across the board. Actually, I'm just going to do these first three for a second, and then I'll take you to the next page, which is where it's going to be a little bit easier to visualize. So for all of these platforms, again, 100 sales, $5 for my average selling price. Sales revenue is $500. And then let's see, and these numbers I'm literally just making up for the purpose of this example. I haven't actually looked at this specific example, so I'm learning as we go here what these numbers are really going to look like. So on Etsy, my total cost for all those fees is going to be $85. So I'm going to make 83% of that total revenue. So I'm going to take home $415. For Etsy pattern, if I have 100 sales, let's just scroll down here to the good stuff. My total cost is $55. I'm going to take home 89%. That's pretty good. Then I'm going to take home $445. So you can see here we have 83% and 89%. Now let's hop over to Shopify. So for Shopify, again, the same numbers. My total cost is now $59, 88% margin, and I'm going to take home $441. So when we look at an example like this, I want you guys to think about, let's just look at Etsy pattern and Shopify. What I'm taking home is a couple dollars off. But for me personally, what I think about when I look at these numbers is that with Etsy pattern, I'm going to save myself so much time and one less platform to manage just because I already use Etsy. So for me, that's just one thing I take into account. I'm sure that you guys will have even more things and lots of other considerations to make, but that's just one thing I think about when I look at that. Now I'm going to scroll over to Ravelry. I'm going to skip over some of these other ones. I'm just going to go with Ravelry and PayPal. And right here, it's really hard to hold up your phone, type, and look at this at the same time. So thank you for bearing with me. Let me expand this column. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. We have a little error in the spreadsheet here. All right, you know what? I'm not going to make you guys sit through this, so I will make sure I fix this in the freebie. And let me just highlight this column so that I know I can fix it later. So I'm going to bold this. But we're going to hop over to the next page, and I think things will make a little bit more sense. Oops. All right. Here we go. Now, wow, that's a lot to look at, right? There's a lot of stuff going on this page, but here's the coolest thing about this. I'm going to show you right over here. We've got the average selling price, right? And then per month, you can look at all those volumes at the same time. So I've got $5 for my average selling price. Again, you guys can put in $50, $35, whatever is your average selling price. It'll work for whatever. And then based on those fees we talked about, here's my cost for each platform. My profit is over here. There's like a fly right next to me. It's kind of freaking me out. Can you see it? Ew. All right, anyway, scroll over. This is what I really want to focus on over here, the margin, because at the end of the day, if I'm comparing pennies, it's going to get really confusing. But if I can compare these margins, no matter what with Etsy selling $5 patterns, no matter if I sell 5 or 10 or 100 or 1,000, I think this last number down here is 1,000, it's going to be 83%, no matter what. Whereas with Etsy, Shopify Basics, Shopify, and Squarespace, those numbers are going to change because we have that monthly fee. So with Etsy, straight up 83% a month is my profit margin. Now with Etsy Pattern and Shopify Basic, let's look. So I have to check my numbers here. 5, 10. Let's look at 100 sales a month because I've been using that example. Let me hop back over here. I have like a bunch of different versions of these spreadsheets, and in this one I don't have the panes frozen, so that's another thing I'm going to update before you guys get the freebie, just so it's easier to look at. All right, so this line here, I'm looking at 100 sales a month for $5 patterns. How do we get the freebie? It will be in a blog post right after this Instagram Live. So 83% on Etsy, 89% is my profit margin on Etsy Pattern, and on Shopify Basic, it's 85%. Now, looking over here, I've got Ravelry at 91%, and if I use those micro payments I talked about, we're talking 94%. That's insane. That's amazing. Like, that is incredible. And then if I hop back over to Squarespace over here, it's 85%. It's pretty similar to Shopify Basic for a lot of these numbers. And then if you look, the more I sell of these $5 patterns, the more I'm going to take home with these platforms. But with Etsy, regular Etsy, it's 83% no matter how much I'm selling. Does that make sense? Now, I want to show you guys one other thing to visualize this, and then I'm going to plug in some numbers for if you're selling physical products. So, scroll down. All right. Now, based on that chart above, we have this comparison. Look at that. A little graph. I love graphs. So down here, you guys probably can't read these, but it's color-coded. So I'm going to tell you exactly which line is which and at what points which platform would make the most sense. I am getting real annoyed with this fly over here. It's like, why? Okay, cool, it went away. All right, I was taking a drink, but you guys couldn't see that, so sorry. Do we have to sign up for PayPal Micro separately from PayPal? I've never heard of the Micro. It's kind of complicated. It's kind of tricky to sign up for, but basically your best bet, you can still use your same PayPal account, but you do have to kind of contact PayPal to get it set up. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's worth it if the items that you sell are less than $10 a month. So let's look here. This blue line, like I just told you guys, my profit margin with Etsy is 83% no matter how much I sell. So whether I'm selling 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, all the way up to 1,000, that profit margin is 83% no matter what. Now, it's the same thing up here where I have Ravelry, this blue line, and Ravelry with the micro payments. Those are pretty set. Now, our friends like Shopify and Squarespace and Etsy Pattern that have monthly fees, that's where things really start to change. So Etsy Pattern over here is my best profit margin for any of those. You can see right around like 50 sales. Oh, tell me. Okay, well, it's not going to tell me that exact point, but that's okay. So let's look at 50 right here, right where it crosses with regular Etsy. So again, this blue line is regular Etsy, and this orange one is Etsy Pattern. So if I'm making 50 sales a month or above, that's where I'm actually going to make more of a profit using Etsy Pattern. Now, very, very similar with Shopify, Shopify Basic, and Squarespace. So Shopify Basic is this gray line. I know a lot of you guys have heard of Shopify. It's really popular. It's an amazing tool, amazing platform. I don't use it, but Etsy, Pattern, and Shopify are like my number one contenders right now, just to be honest with you guys. So definitely something I'm taking into consideration. So let's look at Shopify Basic here. And I'd say that's probably around like 75 or 80 patterns. That's where Shopify Basic becomes more profitable for me than Etsy, than regular Etsy. It's never coming above Etsy Pattern, but that is pretty good right there. Now, again, like you guys there's just so much to take into consideration here. So we're just looking at profits. But I think this is really huge, especially because I know that it looks like Etsy increased their fees and they're taking so much away from us as far as fees and the money that we're making. But the reality is, if you're just selling patterns like I am and you're selling less than 50 patterns a month, Etsy's fees are going to be way more profitable for you than something else like Shopify or Squarespace where you have a monthly fee. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in a physical price here. So that average selling price, what do you guys want me to put in? Do you want $30? Do you want $50? Tell me what you think your average selling price would be. Oh yes, Lindsay, you love Shopify. Shopify is an amazing platform. Actually though, I will say, just a disclaimer too, I think every single platform in here is really amazing, but for different reasons. So again, it really just comes down to what you're looking for. Okay, you guys want to see 50. Let's put in 50. And let me just drag that down. Boop. Okay, so now we're looking at $50 a month. So this is kind of cool. You guys can see right away how that graph changed. Very drastically. So what that means is that with less sales per month, they become more profitable more quickly because that monthly fee doesn't matter as much if you're making $50 sales. So I'm going to scroll back over here and now let's look at those profits. So Etsy is at 91%. That's pretty great. Let me highlight that $100 row again. Whoa. Again, thanks for your patience because it's kind of difficult to use a screen, read, and hold my phone and talk all at the same time. And I need more water, so give me 1 second. Alrighty. Woo, almost to the end of this part here. Okay. So again, we've got a $50 average selling price. So that's about $50 per order. And I have the 100 sales per month row highlighted here. So with Etsy at 100 sales per month, I'm going to take home, actually at a $50 average selling price, I'm going to take home 91% of that regardless. With Etsy Pattern, I'm going to start off by taking home 67% if I have one sale, but right away, if I make 5 sales, I'm taking home 91%. That's awesome. Now with Shopify Basic, I think this one is 25 sales. Yep, this is a 25 row. So at 25 sales and a $50 average selling price, I'm making 91% of a profit margin. That's so awesome. So that's the same as using Etsy. Now, if I make above that, like again, at this 100 sales per month column, I don't know why, but I keep questioning if I highlighted the right thing. Did I? I think I misspoke earlier. Because at 1, 5, 10, 25, 50. Let me scroll back over. So 1, 10, 25, 50. Okay. So actually it'd be 25 sales per month where you'd make the same as Etsy. And then if I'm doing 100 sales per month, I'm going to make 100 sales per month, $50 per sale. I'm going to take home 96% of that. Like, that is so amazing. And on regular old Etsy, I'd take home 91%. Etsy pattern, again, I'm going to take home 96%. Pretty awesome. Now, Squarespace over here, again, I just think Squarespace really deserves to be in this lineup because they make amazing websites with all the same like shop features. It's awesome. And they're hanging out over here at like 93%. And okay, Ravelry doesn't really apply here because you're not going to sell a $50 pattern on Ravelry, so let's just ignore that. So here's the thing. I'm going to flip my camera back around. Again, if you guys want this spreadsheet, hang on, I got to get you guys back situated up on my window. I had to tape. Let's hope this tape holds up. Boop. Okay. Awesome. I hope my phone stays, but if it falls, like, it's fine. I'll pick it back up. Okay. I think it's going to stay. Awesome. Okay. Wow. That was like a lot of numbers. And I don't expect you guys to like be like, oh my gosh, I totally know what to do now, because I have spent days looking at this and I still haven't really decided which platform is best for me. But what this has done is given me such a good idea of at which point on which platform I'm going to take home the most money. And that's just one thing that's important. I think your customer experience is important. I think staying true to your brand is important. There's other features that these platforms have that I didn't note on here. So for instance, I use MailChimp for my email list, and Shopify integrates with MailChimp. That's pretty awesome that the two of those work really well together. So like that's something that's priceless that I can't account for in a spreadsheet. But also Shopify is a lot bigger of a time investment for me just because I'm already set up and going on Etsy. So I hope that this helps you guys take all that into account. I would encourage you to download this freebie, which will be at the link in my bio in a blog post like a little bit after this live is done. And plug in your own numbers and play with it and just see where you're comfortable and which platform you think would be best for you. I saw a couple of questions. Have I ever used Store Envy? No, I actually haven't heard of that. And what do I think of Big Cartel? I heard good things about Big Cartel, but what I actually heard was that after you pass a certain threshold of sales, it's going to be more expensive than something like Shopify. So I've heard good things, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's a good long-term decision for me. So that's why I didn't include it in this. I've also looked a lot into WooCommerce, which is kind of like Shopify, but like a WordPress version, which is pretty amazing. But WooCommerce takes a lot of technical ability and time. And those are things that I don't necessarily have. Just because, you know, if you have a family or if you work full time, all of these things, your time is just as important as your money. So sometimes like it makes more sense for you to pay a little bit more somewhere because it's more convenient, or because you like the services it offers, or because it gives you peace of mind that you don't have to worry about something if it breaks. So just a couple of thoughts. Shopify works with apps, so you can download the app to sell digital products, and it tracks the data on individual digital downloads, how many opens, clicks, downloads, etc. That's amazing. And Shopify also, Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, but Shopify also integrates with Instagram, right? So you can like link posts in your Instagram as far as like you tap on it and you can click on that listing and it'll take someone to the website. So like if I tagged, I don't know, a pattern in my Instagram post, someone could click on it and go to the Shopify listing for that pattern, which is so cool. Okay, and it integrates with Facebook. That's amazing. See, Shopify, there's a reason it's so popular, because it's pretty stellar at what it does. I think the biggest thing that I wanted to point out, and hopefully that you guys can gain from this, is that yes, Etsy raised their fees. Does that mean they're ripping you off? No, like there's no monthly fee for Etsy. You can literally spend an hour on Etsy and like $1 and set up your first shop and have like 5 listings in there. That's incredible. On any other platform, you'd be paying like $30 a month just to put your listings out there. Whereas on Etsy, you can pay 20 cents a listing and you don't really have to pay anything else until you make a sale. Pretty cool. I need to get more info on Etsy patterns. So it's like a website that's run through Etsy, but doesn't look like you're shopping on Etsy. Yes, you know what? Actually, here, let me pull something up. Actually, no, I'll just tell you. Someone who has an amazing Etsy pattern website is Nifty Knittings. Hers is beautiful and I love it. She makes me want to use Etsy patterns. So just food for thought, someone really cool to look at if you're looking for a really awesome example of what that looks like. And Destiny, I hope you don't mind that I shared that. I'm not sure if it says right on your website that it's Etsy pattern, but anyway, it's really awesome. So let me pull back up my notes. It looks like I've been on here for about 40 minutes. So if you guys have questions, this is a great time to kind of tap into those and break those down. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything else. Here's something that I wanted to make sure I pointed out. I'm glad I wrote a note because otherwise I would have forgotten. You guys saw a lot of different numbers in this today, right? So with that average selling price of $50, no matter how many sales a month you make, you're going to take home 91%. 91% of that. So you're already losing 9% of your profit to Etsy. You're saying, here, Etsy, thank you so much for processing my payment and thank you for letting me use your platform. Here's 9% of my revenue for you, Etsy. When you price your items, I know as makers, when we start out, we're like, yeah, well, the yarn cost me $20 and, it'll only take me an hour, so I'll charge you $30 and I'll make $10. Well, don't forget that Etsy is going to take 9% of that. So Etsy's taking 90 cents of that $10. Did I do that right? I did not do that right. 9% of $30 is $2.70. So you're giving Etsy $2.90, $2.70. Wow. Let me slow this down. You're giving Etsy $2.70. You paid $20 for your yarn. So in total, you paid $22.70 and you're bringing home $7.30. So when you're pricing your items, this is one other thing to just absolutely make sure you're considering when you price your items. And if you're confused about pricing, if you're not sure where to start, I would highly encourage you to check out Maker Strong. There's a Facebook group. We talk about pricing all the time, and they're huge advocates for pricing accordingly because your time is worth so much money, and so is your skill. So keep that in mind. I also just wanted to say, with anything I said tonight, please don't take my word for it. Please do a free trial on Shopify or an Etsy pattern. Download this freebie and see if that helps you figure out what's best for you and what you want to do. There's no right answer that suits every single person. Everyone might have a different answer based on the features you're looking for, what you're willing to pay. And again, where you're at in your business, how you see your long-term vision going. It's so important to consider all of these things, and I don't want you to see or think that, oh, well, this person did it this way, so that must be the right way. There is no right way. There's nothing that's applicable across the board. It's really what works best for you and figuring out what that is and doing your research. I really just wanted to emphasize that more than anything. I just wanted to help you guys figure out these numbers because it can be very tricky. And I hope that this helps you do that. If you guys have more questions, feel free to pop them in right now. Otherwise, I'll be putting up the blog post soon and you guys can get your hands on this freebie and play with it and figure out what those profit margins look like for you. Whew, I'm just so thirsty. You guys are so sweet. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. Well, I think I covered everything. I have this fear in my head that I missed something, but if I did, feel free to leave a comment on the blog post or send me a DM. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this. I know that numbers aren't always the most fun thing as makers. We are creative people by nature, and sometimes looking at numbers and spreadsheets really isn't what we want to be doing. But I hope this makes it easier for you. I hope this makes you feel more confident as you're making those decisions. And at the end of the day, again, do what's right for you, right? And don't feel guilty. Don't play the comparison game. Really look at the information and just do the right thing for you. All right, that is it for tonight, and I will see you guys next week. Same thing, Wednesday night, and not sure exactly what we're going to be chatting about just yet, but it'll probably just be like a casual chit chat, since I was kind of doing that in the month of June, but changed it up for this one because I really, really wanted to address this topic and share some of this information and the research that I've done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will do a little shout on my stories when the blog post is up and you guys can get your hands on that free download. All right, bye guys.